My name is Faizun Kamal. I am a franchise coach. I'm with the franchise consulting company. And as the name suggests, I help professionals like me. I'm a corporate refugee. I used to be in the corporate world for close to a decade. I had my own transition, like many of you in the room. And for a variety of reasons, I didn't want to go back into corporate. I was done with that world. I was done with that life. And so as John said, if you don't want to go back and get a job, what can you do? And that started my journey to what I now do. Let me start with you guys, actually, before I jump into this slide. I know we did the introductions, John, thank you for that. Would you guys very quickly, you said 30 seconds, I'm going to say 15 seconds. Very quickly, would you share with me, on a Monday morning, on a cold Monday morning, you could have chosen to be anywhere, but you chose to be here with 40 Plus and with me. Why are you here this morning? I want to be able to make this hour that we have together as valuable as I can for you. So if you can share that with me, and by the way, don't say I'm here to learn more about franchises. That does not count. You have to get a little more creative, a little more specific. Should I pick on Nicole? I think I should.
Again, I'm Nicole. I am here because I have been to a presentation of Faizuns before, just out of curiosity, and found it to be extremely very interesting and very informative. Learned a lot of things that I did not know about franchises. And I am in the process of possibly transitioning my career. So here I am again.
Welcome again.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm Tracy, and what I do with at Keller Williams is I assist other agents with figuring out after they age out, health out, or opt out of corporate or out of real estate, that a lot of them don't have the wealth building vehicles, or they want to earn money after. A lot of them, once they finish, they finish. They don't do anything with their databases or anything like that, or anything with the money. So I said I wanted to, for myself as well, understand age out, opt out, or health out. I want to have I want to have a strategy. So Nicole, I had mentioned that to Nicole. I was working on this wealth building series, and she said, "Hey, you might want to sit through this because it's really great." We did think of franchising ownership, small business ownership and things like that. So I want to be able to provide that opportunity for other agents as well as myself.
Fantastic. Welcome.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm really glad you asked the question because, in my area of helping people in transitions, some of whom were saying, gee, I'm finished my main career, what do I do next? Do I volunteer? Do I do another job? I really want to be knowledgeable to be able to help people say, well, there are a lot of different options, what might those be? And to be able then to refer people who are thinking about, well, I don't want to volunteer and I want to have my own business to be able to do that. So if I have more expertise in that area, I can then be useful, at least making the referral, because I'm not an expert in the franchise world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rob, we meet again.
Again.
Yes, sir.
So I'll give you I still have the same non-connection to the topic.
Yes.
Although your presentation is always very interesting, and I never, even though this is not the thing for me, what you say about it, maybe there's some other little piece of information that can be valuable for me. The other reason I'm here is to meet anybody else who's here and see whether there's some valuable connection I can make here. And also, it's Monday morning, so it's good to start off with something that's making you think, and who knows what little opportunity.
Thank you. Welcome again.
Sure.
Exactly the same reason. No, really, you've said exactly what I was thinking in terms of just an interest in learning more, maybe not for myself, but for people that I coach, and also the networking opportunities.
Fantastic. Well, you're in the right place.
Yeah, exactly.
Wonderful.
Really out of curiosity. That's really
Hope I will be able to peek that curiosity.
okay.
Jeffrey.
I had an opportunity to meet and listen to Faizun's fantastic presentation back in the fall. At that point, I had just, I won't say moved, but started the transition from New York down to Maryland. That said, I've also had an opportunity to listen to Ron and his experience in starting the franchise, and it's viability for him. So this time I'm going general to specific, I'm learning more.
Fantastic. Love it.
Hi. I'm also probably not going to go for a franchise. However, I was intrigued by the fact that Ron explained a couple of times that his franchise is more in services rather than the brick and mortar type of franchise. So I'm curious to hear more about that. If there are other
Fabulous.
opportunities as well.
Fabulous. You ready to pick on you, Tom?
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Hi, everyone. I'm here again on Monday morning because of my involvement with 40 Plus. My goal is to hear all the speakers when they come in. I'm trying to develop more insight as to the process of how people are creating their professional growth and transition. Remember, the youngest baby boomer is now 55 years old. We're moving into a whole new generation of how, and the difference in how people think, you know, the millennials, the Gen X's, etc. So I'm constantly trying to develop insight into how to help people move their profession forward, their professional growth forward, into areas that they really will be successful in navigating.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
John, I graduated from the transitions course last August, and it was actually in that course when my classmates told me, forget your international strategy career and make artwork, because I showed them a few pieces. Since last August, I started this, and I've probably made about $8,000 just off of making artwork. And it's actually coming here on Mondays when I kind of formed the room for new ideas on marketing and sales. And that's got me on the 22nd. I've got a charity art show. They're auctioning off 6 of my pieces. And then a guy approached me this past Saturday. He wants me to team up with 2 other artists and do a for-profit show by the end of the month, where he's just selling my stuff flat out. So I come here because I recognize the power of the network and getting reconnected to other professionals, because it's tough sitting at home alone trying to figure this thing out.
Absolutely.
And you know, I'm going to add to what John said. Also, you and I have talked about franchising your process of making art. So there is a connection there. Once you, he didn't bring it up, but I'll bring it up.
Well, I'm hungry taking this one day at a time, but yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And then for me, if I may go,
Please.
There was a question.
I just want to share what your website was again.
Rhino, if you go to Instagram, are you on Instagram? Rhino Wood Art.
Okay.
Thank you.
so as co-executive director, one of the important things for me is making sure that 40 Plus is around for at least another 66 years. We're 66 years, but one of the ways to do that is to maybe franchise our ideas, our methodology out to other places. So I'm interested in learning, you know, if there's any ways that we can do that, because that's a big interest to me. It'd be a revenue source for us and a way to, you know, expand the reach of 40 Plus.
Wonderful. Absolutely. We'll go a little bit into that today, John. 2 new folks joined us. Ashley, could you tell us a little bit about why you're here with us this morning and something specifically that you might want to walk away with after this session?
Hello everyone, my name is Ashley Lewis. I am new to, I would say, this business game. I am a millennial. I work for the federal government, but as I sit there and I just think at my desk, I'm like, do I see myself doing this in the next 10 to 20 years? And with so many things that's changing, I'm like, I can't see myself 70, 80 still working. So I came across this and I was like, you know what, I'm interested in starting my own franchise. Also just building a legacy for my family. So I'm out just learning and seeing what the next step is so that I can provide a way for my loved ones and myself. So
Wonderful. Good to see you again. Thank you. Ashley actually attended my workshop last Monday at the Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs. I guess I must have made it super fun for you that you're back again. Lovely. And last but not the least.
My name is Vic. A friend of mine recommended me this group, so I'm for the first time here, so I'm looking forward to learn more things and to meet new people.
Wonderful. All right. I think we have everyone? Yes. All right. welcome again. Before I begin, I just want to say one small thing, one not so small thing. John and Tom and Ron and 40 Plus remain one of my dearest partners since I started my own business. And you know, there are other organizations here in the DMV that offer maybe similar things, educational workshops, classes, right? If you're in transition, how to help you through that. The thing with 40 Plus that has always stood out for me is not only do they do that, not only do they provide that incredibly valuable resource for those in transition, they do that with so much love and so much heart. I was speaking with Reed earlier and I said, you know, one of the things we don't talk about when we're in transition is it's also an incredibly isolating, psychologically, mentally isolating process, particularly if you've been laid off. We're not kids. We have mortgages and spouses and bills to pay, right? Kids. And you think, oh my God, I got laid off. Do I have any self-worth? What does this mean? Am I not good at what I do? Right? And to be able to have a peer group that you can share that with, in addition to all the other stuff that you're doing, right, is absolutely amazing. So guys, again, I say to you, thank you for allowing me to be a part of your group over and over. I love you guys. Absolutely love you guys. All right. So let's jump in. Once again, I'm Faizun Kamal, and in a very quick nutshell of a slide, this is kind of my backstory of why I now have my own business and I do this every single week with groups of sometimes complete and sometimes semi-strangers that I have met, and I become friends with them and I help them find an opportunity to reinvent and redesign their career, and by doing so, redesign their lives. Because guys, how much time do we each spend at work every day? That is our lives, right? There's no firewall between the two anymore. I was with a tiny company. Connect with me on LinkedIn and you'll find out who that tiny company is. I used to head up their public policy division here in DC. I was with the company for about close to 10 years. It's a blue chip company. It's one of the American stalwarts that we know about, that we, probably half of us at least in the room, we use their products and services. It's a great company. I had a fabulous job, but I was unhappy. I was good at what I did, but I never loved what I did. And for me, that was always very important. I was there for about 10 years, and in 2015, my boss came to me and said, Faizun, you know, we've had wave after wave of layoffs, and in this particular round, your position got eliminated. And guys, I'll tell you, I did a little dance of joy. Because I've been thinking about it for some time. And it was not, I prepared for it, right? Financially, psychologically, I prepared for it. And it was as though the boulder that was on my chest, somebody had finally lifted it, and I could breathe again. That's how I felt. Left the company, and that began my journey into what was I going to do next. Very quickly, I realized I was never going back into corporate. So the question, as John said, became, what does my next step look like? I don't know what it looks like. One thing led to another, and I was actually with an organization very similar to 40 Plus, and I went through the transition process with them, and somewhere along the way, I found the world of franchises. And so now, I own a company where I do two things. Oh, by the way, this, while it's the last bullet, is probably the most important bullet. I had my daughter when I was in corporate, and I am not one of those people who has regrets. That's not me, that's not my MO. But my biggest regret to date in my life is that I missed almost entirely the first year of her life. It'll never come back. Whether you're a mom, whether you're a dad, I think it hits home, right? Yes, we want to be able to provide for our families, but we also want to be there with our families while we're providing for them, right? So all of this tied in led me into a franchise consulting company. Here at the FCC, I do two things, and for our purposes today, and John, this is what you're referring to, right. The second piece, right? For the most part today, I'll be focusing on franchise consulting, which, by the way, is where I work with individual clients from different walks of life who come to me and say, Faizun, for whatever reason, I no longer want to go back into corporate. I'd like to start a business, but you know, starting a business from scratch can be super risky. can you help me find a franchise that's a proven business model that I can open with the support and the resources of the franchisor behind me? That's franchise consulting. On the other end of the spectrum, I work with a large number of business owners who are at a stage in their company's development, in their business's development, where they say, either for lack of time or lack of money, I am not being able to grow the company the way I want to. I think franchising might be the right growth strategy for me. Can you help me franchise my business? That's the second thing I do, right? By the way, our services are free to you, the client. So we work like a realtor. In this case, the brands that I work with, they pay us a fee when I've made a placement, when I've put you into one of the businesses that I have in my inventory. That's how this works. Questions? Okay. By the way, you don't need to take copious notes. Ashley was doing this last week. I had so much fun with her. I would counsel her. I said, stop writing. Just listen. I will send you the slides. Just ping me. I will send you the slides. No need to write. Just listen. This is our agenda for the day. And I will move through some parts pretty quickly, just so that I'm keeping with the time. As we move through, if there are specific questions you guys have, feel free to stop me and ask, even if it's not on the agenda. Good? All right. How many of you have had this happen to you? Right? Ageism, my friend. Jeffrey raises his hand. Ageism is well and alive in the corporate workplace. Don't get it twisted.
Public sector too. No, I said public sector as well.
100%. So here's what we have been seeing happening over, say, roughly the last decade and a half. The last great recession we had, that's the first thing that happened to me. The first bullet, I got laid off. How many of you these days hear somebody say, oh my God, I love my employer. I love my boss. I'm so loyal to them. I give them my heart and soul. Hardly ever, right? Rob?
I
Yes.
would split those two apart.
Split which two apart?
I don't hear anybody say I love my employer. But I know a lot of people say they love their boss.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a lot of loyalty that's disappeared. So right when your parents used to start with a company, work there for 50 years, get the gold watch, the retirement party, no, not so much anymore. The third bullet, 50 plus workers are hit the hardest. I would say, you guys might disagree with me or agree with me, I would say it's actually 45 plus. It's not 50 plus anymore, right? If you're in that magic age range, suddenly you're no longer as sexy, as desirable, as maybe a new college grad that I, as the employer, can hire for less than half of what I'd have to pay you. So this, we're looking for someone aged 22 to 26 with 30 years of experience. They want what you have, but they're not willing to pay you for it, right? That's what I keep hearing over and over again. So when you have all of these things happening, the question becomes, what other alternative is out there? And I find that a lot of people don't really know that there is this alternative. It's not right for everyone, by the way. It isn't. But it is. It can be right for a lot of people. I want you to contrast the move, like when you think about why would you make the move from employee to business owner, I call this the insecurity of job security. You've heard the phrase job security, haven't you? Right? And here's what we find. This is Census Bureau stats, by the way. People 45 and over wait twice as long to find a job. Has this been your experience? Yeah. See a couple heads nodding. There are actually, I think, personally, that this is probably more. It says 3 people or more. I think it's more applying for that one job. Do you guys know what peak incomes are? Your peak income is that age in your career where you will make the most money you will ever make. And then from that point forward, your income starts to decline. Peak incomes for both men and women have dropped down. What does that mean? You make less money for a much longer period in your life and career. We love outsourcing. Companies love outsourcing, right? Let's get rid of people so we can cut costs. Why hire an expensive employee when you can outsource for those services? That's what we keep seeing across industries, across categories. Questions? Yes?
Going back, you said that the peak income earning age for a woman is 39.
It's 39.
That is very.
It used to be 42. Men used to be 51, 52.
Okay.
So at age 39, you're probably going to make, oh gosh, Ashley's looking at me like she's going to fall out of her seat. At age 39, you're probably going to make the most money you're going to make in your career. What does that mean? You, my God, you're still in your 30s. You have the rest of your career ahead of you. Right? Contrast job security with the risks of business ownership. How many of you have heard this before? You want to start a business? Are you mad? It's super risky. Why don't you instead go get a job? There's job security. And I will challenge each of you to ask yourselves, is that truly the case? For you and for people that you know. Certainly for me, it was not true. It wasn't true. Business ownership. Is it risky? 100%. 100%. Nothing in life is without risk. But there are a couple of interesting things happen when you start a business, particularly when you start a business that is a franchise, not a business that you've started from scratch. Can you ever be downsized? Can you ever be laid off from your own company? Can somebody say, John, you know, we've had wave after wave of layoff, man, it's time for you to go?
I don't know.
You don't know? Tell me.
For franchise, are there certain, I know there's certain rules that you have to, by the franchisor, they
Yes.
set certain rules. You can be let go for that. But are there production goals that they're expecting you to meet?
Great question. We'll get into that in another slide.
Okay.
The quick answer is there are some franchises that will have or require annual sales goal. Most of them do not, number one. Number two, there's this misperception that for whatever reason, your franchisor can get rid of you. That is not entirely true. I want you to also look at this from the perspective of the franchisor. They have invested time in you, they have invested money in you, training you to get you where you need to. Do you think that it is in their best interest to ensure that you succeed?
Yes.
Because if you're a franchisee and if you're not making money, who else isn't making money?
Yeah.
You see how this works? It's because it is such a purely business relationship, the
Alignment of interest.
The alignment of interest is right there. Thank you. I need to use that. I always keep searching for that phrase. Alignment of interest, right? If you don't make money, I don't make money. And by the way, if you're not able to meet certain goals or certain objectives that the franchisor has laid out for you, they don't immediately get rid of you. They will work with you. They'll go through a process to make sure you get up to speed. Now, they do that and maybe it still doesn't happen because there wasn't a fit, because the business isn't right for you, because you have an aging parent and that's sucking up whatever, right? For whatever reason, it's not working. At that point, the two of you will separate. There's another notion, John, that people think, oh my God, they're going to sue me. They'll take all my money and go away. Not really. Here's the other reason why it doesn't happen. We'll get into it. You know this. There's a document that each of you, if you look at a franchise, you will go through for every single business that I give you. It's called a franchise disclosure document. You remember those? I know, you love them. You love them, don't lie. So they're called the FDDs. These are legal documents, typically several hundred pages long. There are 23 separate sections. I know Ron used to love the FDDs too when he looked at them. Yes, he did.
It was lots of fun.
It was lots of fun. Lots of fun. When he couldn't go to sleep at night, he would cuddle right up to it. Exactly. But in the FDD, there's one particular section that basically lists all of the people who have ever invested or bought into your system, including people who have left. They're legally required to disclose that. So do you think it might be in their best interest to keep you, to work with you, to make sure you don't leave the system? Yes.
Or at least
Great
make
question.
sure that any exit is amicable.
It's amicable. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And by the way, you will get that full list in the FDD with the names, the phone numbers, and the emails of the people. So do you think you could reach out to someone and say, Ashley, why did you leave? On what terms did you leave? Absolutely. Right? It's a very transparent process. Jeffrey?
Okay, is most of the language in the FTD boilerplate, or are there specific I'm sure there are some specific sections related directly to the business, but is it some of it's boilerplate?
Absolutely. Some of it is boilerplate. Much of it is also very specific to the business and the business model. Absolutely. All right, let's quickly jump into why would you even think about buying a franchise? It's not a silver bullet. It is not the right option for everyone. It has pros, but it has cons as well. Let's begin with the first one. How many of you have heard of the term business in a box? Yeah? What do you think it means? What's business in a box? Yes, sir.
Oh, to me it means for you, if you follow instructions, we'll send you the whole kit and just follow the instructions. It's simple and easy. All the processes and systems are already included. You don't have to develop anything on your own. You just basically, like if you're building a table, follow the instruction manual.
Did you peek at my deck? That was fantastic. That was fantastic.
I run my business as a business in a box.
I love it. So he used the phrase systems and processes. A lot of clients, when they begin with me, they will say, Faizun, I don't know if I want a business that provides a product or a business that provides a service. And I always say to them, it doesn't matter. Because what you're looking for is a franchise that has robust systems and robust processes. If you have that, you can reach your goals through that particular business. If you don't have that, conversely, it does not matter. It does not matter what you do, whether it's a product, whether it's a service, right? So it's a proven, familiar model. Support systems. What kind of support is your franchisor going to provide for you? Ron was saying to me this morning he met with one of the vendors for Schoolie Mitchell. There are things in place for your business that you don't have to create. Your franchisor should have those things in place. That is why you're paying them a royalty every month. You're not giving them money because you love them so much. It's a business relationship. Quicker startup. Guys, do you know, on average, for a business started from scratch, how many years does it take for you to get to profitability? Not break even. Profitability.
3 to 4.
3 to 4.
5.
Another guess.
5.
5. Another guess. Another guess. Last one.
7.
7. It takes on average 7 years. The question then becomes, how many of us have the financial wherewithal for 7 years to get this business up and running before it makes a penny of profit while we are supporting our families and our responsibilities? And the answer is no, not so much. With a franchise, you do get that quicker startup. A lot of people in these workshops will say to me, well, Faizun, this is all good and great, but I don't want to give my money to anyone. If I make $100, I want to keep $100. I do not want to give any monies in royalty. The reason you are paying the royalties is to get that quicker startup, is to get that quicker ramp up. Because you can't afford the time, years and years, in many cases, to be able to get to that stage. Yes, sir?
If profit is 7 years away, what on the average is break even?
Say that again?
If profit's 7 years away, what on average is break even?
What on average is break? So break even is if you invest $100 into the business, 6 years, 6 months down the road, you have made back $100. You have now broken even.
Oh, so you don't include, like I'm imagining in terms of your description, it costs me $100 to start the business, right? And I'm making $10 a month. So my profits, but it takes 7 years to make that profit of $10 a month, but that $10 a month down the road has to pay back all my initial investment. So I'm imagining the way you're describing it, my break even is further out in the time frame than my profit.
No, no.
Okay.
Your break even is the point at which your initial investment into that business has been recouped, whatever that time frame is. With a franchise, that initial time to recoup your investment is much quicker. Even though you pay royalties, I want you guys to understand this. When you have a business from scratch, are you paying anyone royalties? No. $100 you make is $100 you keep. In a franchise, no. $100 you make, you might keep 80, 85, 90. but you have to give some percentage back to the company. Even with a royalty, your startup is much quicker. One of the main reasons why so many people look at franchising as an alternative. John?
And I would also think that the failure rate is another factor that you have to take into consideration.
Yes.
The failure rate for a franchise, I would imagine, because they've worked out all the kinks, is much lower than the failure rate of corporations that are started by individuals.
So, for businesses started from scratch, the Census Bureau tells us that 60% of businesses started from scratch will have disappeared, will have shut down in the first 3 years after beginning. 5 years down the road, fully about 75-76% of those businesses are gone. So when we talk about risk and reward, when we talk about paying a royalty in exchange for a quicker startup, these are the kinds of things that you guys have to start to think about. Okay? What's the FTC? Anyone know? Federal Trade Commission. Why do you guys care if a franchise is regulated by the Trade Commission? Why is that important? Any idea?
If they're a watchdog, they're going to make sure that they're abiding by the rules.
Exactly. Very much like the financial industry, we are a highly regulated industry. And if you are potentially looking at a franchise, this is a good thing for you guys. There are checks and balances in the system for you to make sure you're not getting scammed out of your money. To make sure that what the business is telling you, what they're publishing, they are actually doing. They're not just saying that so that you can hand over a check to them. Let's quickly move over to the con side of the house. There's some people who will say, I get all of this stuff, but like a playbook, I have to follow a playbook to be successful? That still feels like a boss to me. They're still telling me how I need to run my business. I don't want that. And to that I say, then that's very simple. A franchise may not be the right option for you.
I would say that the franchisor is oftentimes easier to deal with than the public. Because if you're not bringing value when you have your own business, they're going to fire you in the form of they're not going to buy your services. Absolutely. So you're always accountable to someone. Who's that someone that you want to be accountable to? Someone who's regulated by the FTC, or someone that you just
Absolutely.
have no idea what you're getting into.
I say to a lot of my clients, yes, it's an essentially business transaction, business relationship, but you want a business relationship that is symbiotic. Did you guys take biology? Do you remember symbiosis? Do you also remember parasitic relationships? You want to stay away from those, right? You want to go with a franchisor who, yes, you're going to pay them a royalty, but they are providing you with robust support systems. Oh, and on top of that, if it's a product or a service that is truly valuable, you're off to the races, baby. Yeah? These are the kinds of things that we're going to break apart as we look at different businesses. John raised the point of annual sales goals. I put that up there because there are some brands of mine that require that. Most of my brands, however, do not. For some people, that could be a con. I don't want to have to live up to an annual sales goal. We talked about this.
But on the flip side, I will say, as a financial advisor, I'll tell you that having goals institutes necessary discipline. Yeah.
I agree. Okay. And again, a lot of this too, John, I think comes down to the kind of person you are, right? Are you structured? Do you like discipline? Do you like having goals that you can then meet as you move forward, right? A lot of that we're going to talk about. Does anybody know what protected territories is? Ever heard of that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, what does that mean?
Once you are established, or let's say once you're selected as a franchisee in that area, then no one else.
That's right. Right? So you have a sandbox, a designated sandbox, and nobody can play in your sandbox. Therefore, all the marketing dollars that you are going to spend marketing your product, marketing your business, marketing your service, those are monies that are going to people who hopefully are going to become your clients. So I'm a franchisee, I am in Virginia. John is a franchisee of the same franchise, but he's in DC. DC is his market, Virginia is mine. He cannot jump into mine, I cannot jump into his. Ron, what is your and Mary's territory?
Actually, School of Mitchell does not have territory.
That's right, they do not.
We have protected clients.
You have protected clients.
So I can get clients anywhere in the country. I can be on vacation, sign up a client.
Exactly. So he's talking about a slightly different thing that many businesses do, where they will say you don't have protected territories, but you have protected clients. And it'll break it all down in the FDD, Jeffrey. It'll go through all those details. So remember how I said boilerplate and specific?
Yes.
This is where the play comes in. It's a binding contract. You're not doing this for blank and giggles. Right? It's a binding, it's a legal contract. When you get to that stage of the process, I will say time out. I'm going to introduce you to a franchise attorney. I am not one, but I work with some of the best in the country. I want you to sit down with them, with the FDD and the franchise agreement, which is the contract that you would sign eventually, and make sure that you can live with all of the things in that contract. Because you are going to be bound to them once you sign it. It's a binding contract. What does this mean? Franchises' problems are your problems. Yeah.
If I can remember.
Oh, God.
If the franchisor is having some issues financially or some issues with the FTC or any problems, you would want to know that as a franchisee, because then it would then trickle down to you as well.
Yes, indeed. Very good. You remember. Jeffrey.
So, for example, there was a rumor some years ago that Kentucky Fried Chicken at one point, there was a rat that was in one of their buckets.
Yes.
So people in the New York City area for a while stayed away from Kentucky Fried Chicken.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
The one example that I have used quite a bit, I thought that's what you were going to say. Do you guys remember, you heard me say this last week, actually. Several summers ago, Subway, we found out that the foot-length sandwich was actually not a foot long. Oh my God. The skies are going to fall on our heads. You guys remember this? Right? It was like 10 inches, 11 something. Now here's the thing. If I'm a Subway franchisee, did I bake my own bread? It came from corporate. Breads are delivered to me every week. I don't know how many inches it is. My corporate marketing team is telling me it's a foot long. So all my ads say it's a foot long, but they're not actually a foot long. It created a lot of very bad PR. And franchisees locally, they have to bear the brunt of it, even though they themselves, they really didn't have a hand in it, did they? So your franchisor's problems can become your problems. Did somebody have a question, comment?
I would also say,
Yes.
if there's an industry issue or if there's an industry shift, then there might be some
Absolutely.
issues as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anything else? Good?
They told me crap flows down the street.
It is true. It is true. And therefore, when you are doing the due diligence with me, looking at different brands, and we're looking at the FDD, we want to find out what is the management strength of the company. Who's leading the company? What do their numbers look like? Have they ever declared bankruptcy? Has there been any funny business? Have they ever been litigated against? Do they have any outstanding lawsuits anywhere? We're going to go through all that stuff. Remember that, Ron?
Go ahead.
Yeah? Yeah?
But one other thing I want to say about the franchise problems, if you're selling a product and the franchisor is not keeping up with current tastes or not keeping the product up to date, that's all you can sell. And so they're
That's a great point.
it's their deficiency, but it's impacting you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Why does franchising work? It is a proven systematic approach to starting and staying in business. How easy, guys, or how difficult is it to start a business?
Sure.
Right?
Easy to start.
It took me all of maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Virginia State Corporation Commission, gave them, put in my name, gave them my credit card information, and $125 later, boom, I was in business. How hard was that? What is significantly harder is, are you staying in business? How long have you been in business? For how many years? That is the real trick. That is really what you're trying to look at. And by the way, these are just some of the major categories of things you're going to look at for every brand that I give you to look at. We're going to look at how much experience they have had. How simple is their business model? What kind of systems and ongoing support do they have? Do they just give you training for a week when you come in and then they let you loose and say, go do whatever the hell it is you need to do? Or do they support you for the life of your contract with them? It makes a huge difference.
So you help your clients through this whole process.
Yes.
Very nice.
When you work with me, you'll hear me use the phrase due diligence. Due diligence is when you're investigating all of these aspects and then some of every business that I give you. Okay? Did you guys know this? Franchises make more money than competing non-franchise businesses. Did you guys know that? Every single time, every single category. It blew my mind when I heard about it the first time. So if I have a plumbing business, Faizuns Plumbing LLC, and there's a national franchise brand, and you're a franchisee of that, Tracy, every single time for the same service, you will make more money than I will make. Keep that in mind. That's a pretty astonishing fact. Right?
Well, they have a lot more data points that they're getting, information from and improving upon.
Absolutely. Systems and processes, John.
Can you
Going
charge
back to that.
more because you've got an established brand?
Sometimes. Sometimes your mother brand might set the pricing guidelines. In other cases, you as the franchisee may be free to do that based on your local market conditions. It depends. It can go either way. So guys, as you kind of narrow down into this process of finding a franchise, the problem these days is not that you can't find franchises anywhere, right? Is that the problem? You don't know where they are, you don't know who they are, you don't know where they exist. That's not the issue. The problem is in fact the opposite. Currently, just in the United States, we have over 3,500 different franchises in over 100 industries. These are the 5 major categories. The first one is the one that everybody knows about and thinks about, right, when they think of a franchise. So, Shoshi, this is what you were alluding to. You were surprised. Ron had a business that provided a service. What? You mean it's not all about burgers and fries? No, it's not. Right?
Maid service.
So food, that's a known one. Automotive, retail, business services, and home personal services. Guys, can you give me an example of a franchise that provides a business service? Ron's is an example. Provides a business service. Jeffrey?
Legal Zoom.
Yes. UPS store? Right?
Don't forget tax preparation.
Tax preparation, another huge one. Think of the different kinds of services that a business might need. Okay, I have 10 minutes. I will do the biggest marathon of my life. All right, so what will it cost? None of you asked me this question yet. Most people have this misperception that a franchise costs $1 million. I have franchises that cost $1 million and then some. But I also have businesses, many of them, that fall in these different categories. This one here in the middle, what I refer to loosely as office-based, that fall in the investment range of $100,000 to $250,000. This is what we call the sweet spot of franchising. In this investment range, I can show you the greatest diversity and types of businesses that are out there. This very last category, these are typically restaurants and hotels. Why do you think that is? Because they require what?
Physical infrastructure.
That's right. Anytime you need brick and mortar, your costs are going to go up. Right? Rule of thumb. By the way, no automatic correlation between how much a franchise costs and how much you can make from that business. Some people think, well, don't I have to invest $1 million to get $1 million back? Maybe. Not always. There is no automatic correlation. How many of you have heard of recession resistant? Anyone? Yeah. Whether the economy is going up or it's going down, your business continues to make money. These are just some examples of clients who I have placed here, right here in the DMV, in these different categories. Who's heard of semi-absentee? Some of you might say, you know, I have a good job, I have good health benefits, I'm not quite ready to leave yet. But while I'm still in my job for the next year, 2 years, can I start a business on the side? And the answer is yes, and you can do that through this category of franchises called semi-absentee, where you essentially hire a manager to replace you because you have a job. The manager takes care of that location of that business, the day-to-day. This, my friends, is the 6-step process that I use. If you work with me, here's what you are going to have to do. Pretty self-explanatory. It's a 6-step process, and I go into great detail on each step in my book, which I will talk a little bit on. I'll give you guys a copy of the book so you can go through this if you're interested. The first step really begins with a consult. I want to get to know you. Ron, do you remember our first call?
Yes.
It was an interesting call.
Well, you gave me a questionnaire first.
I sure did.
And then we discussed the question. And then you spent several weeks trying to encourage me to finish the questionnaire.
I was not going to bring that up, but sure. Yes. Right? He was fabulous to work with.
She was about to give up on me, but she hung in there.
You took your time, but when you began, you didn't putz around. I say to my clients, I am available to you, I'm free for you to use. Use me, but don't abuse me. And he didn't do that, for sure. We go through this, I give you a couple of assessments because I'm trying to get a window into how you think and who you are. Once I get that back from you, the second step becomes I create what's called your personalized business model. And I go through these and a bunch of other questions. I'm trying to get into your head and understand, Tracy, why? Why do you want to start a franchise? I mean, isn't it easier to just go back and get another job? Running a business is tough. I'm looking for ways to disqualify you, my friends. He knows this. Why? It's a time-consuming process, both for you and me. And if you're not going to be serious about this, we should not begin this. That's why. The third step. This is where, after I've created your business model, I introduce you to brands. Brands that I have picked out based on your business model, your detailed, granular details that you've shared with me on what you want the business to give you. I go into my inventory and I pick out 3 specific brands. I never give a client more than 3. I found 3 is the sweet spot. 2 is too little, 4 is too many. Okay? This is what you do. You're going to speak with the franchisor. You are going to understand their business model. Remember the systems and processes? Yes. Yes. You're going to review the FDD. You go through that entire process. This, in a nutshell, is what I refer to as due diligence. You will then validate. It's a process a specific step in the process we call validation, where you're going to call, and if the franchisee is local, we're going to go visit them. Because do you think I know what it is like to run that particular business?
No.
On a day-to-day? Who does? The franchisee, right? You're going to do that. And this is what you're going to keep asking yourself throughout the entire process. Do you see yourself doing this? Can you see yourself doing it? Are you going to have fun doing it? Right? As we begin, I will almost immediately introduce you to my funding concierge. Because what I don't want you to do after I introduce brands to you is have you be running up and down, having conversations with different banks. We do not do that. It's an in-house process. I keep it very streamlined. I keep it very efficient. And I will send you to the 3 largest, oldest, most renowned franchise funding partners in the country. Okay? At the end of it all, if the brand loves you and you love them, they will invite you out to their corporate headquarters for what's known as a discovery day. This is your last step in the process. Because remember, they've had you on calls, you've been emailing, you might have been on some video calls, but they've never met you. You want them to look into the eyeballs of the people who you are going to be working with. Ron, did you have a discovery day?
We actually did not attend one. We were invited to attend, but by that point, my wife and I had already made up this decision.
Yeah.
And it actually wouldn't have worked out because it would have been in Canada and my passport had expired. So.
Small technical problems. You come back from Discovery Day, and this is where you make your decision. Your Discovery Day should give you the confidence to say, to make that final step in the decision process, yes, this is the business for me, or no. For these reasons, Faizun, I don't think this is the brand for me. And that's okay. All right. That's all I got for you folks. I know I zoomed through. You should have gotten a copy of the evaluation form. Please indicate if you would. We're not going to do a drawing. By the way, this book comes out nationwide in Barnes & Nobles and I don't know whatever the other chain bookstores are in September. Thank you. I did it in between, put the child to sleep. The husband is still bothering me. I'm like, go do something else. Then I write a couple pages. But anyway, it's done. Please indicate if you'd like a copy. I'd be delighted to send you that. It's an ebook version now. And then if you would like to schedule some time to talk further, indicate that as well. Or if you just want to stay connected, always happy to do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.